Now we're going to talk about how Buddhism is a little bit different than the three Abrahamic religions of the Middle East. And this difference is important to keep in mind before we begin our path on the student course pathway. You have three religions in the Middle East. You have Christianity, you have Islam, and you have Judaism. And in India, you have Hinduism, Buddhism, and another religion called Jainism. And they all rest atop kind of an earlier tradition of yoga. Yoga in the United States has been characterized as an exercise. It was not included as one of the great world religions, and we'll discuss that. Buddhism was, for better or for worse. And so when people practice Buddhism, they ask a lot of doctrinal questions because they think of it as a religion. They want to know why and what. But yoga in the United States is thought of as an exercise, something you practice. And so you just do it. And you don't ask a lot of technique or doctrinal questions because it's seen as an exercise. Now, yoga instructors are a little disappointed that the spirituality, the depth of yoga has been lost in favor of counting calories and developing your core. But Buddhism is seen as spiritual, religious, so people don't tend to see it as a practice or an exercise or a method or a technique. So it's kind of interesting. It's the way we conceive these two traditions is the way we interact with them. And so what I'm suggesting is yoga is profoundly deep, very spiritual, and Buddhism is also an exercise, a practice, a technique. It's something that you perform and that you do, and it's transformative. And so we have to be very careful when we talk about Buddhism not to stick it into a Christian or Abrahamic monotheistic whole. But in Buddhism, because we talked about pragmatic utility, the authority in Buddhism comes from the teachings, not the founder. And it's because they work and they're effective. And the Buddha actually talked about this, that you try it out and you see if it works for you. And then it has authenticity in your life. Another subtle difference, one scholar said, is the Buddha really shouldn't be seen as a founder per se. We use that word sometimes, but he's really a teacher. He's someone who's teaching a technique or a way, much like a yoga instructor. And so it's important that the Buddha remains fully human and not divine in any way, because he's our success story. He's our exemplar. He's a case study. The Buddha is speaking from personal experience that these practices worked for him. He realized insight. He became awake. And so it gives him authority in the sense of experiential authority. And it's much like Weight Watchers. The professor or scholar said that Weight Watchers is a way of losing weight. The reason why Oprah Winfrey does commercials for Weight Watchers is because she's lost weight. She can say, it worked for me, why can't it work for you? If nobody ever lost weight in Weight Watchers, that would be a disaster for Weight Watchers. And the same thing for Buddha. If we didn't have great disciples, if we didn't have the Buddha's life story, we wouldn't have any proof that the path actually works as designed. And those great disciples will be discussed in the first Sangha course. Different people on the path that realized awakening like the Buddha. And they're all quite different. Some were very visual. Maybe they looked at a flame flickering on the wall, or they looked at mandalas. Some were very auditory. They listened to the teachings. Some were very kinesthetic, sitting silently, or chanting, or walking. So these are the different learning modes, the different modalities of different types of students. And so there are many different types of disciples, and you can find your spirit animal in there. You know, you could say, I'm just like that guy, and it worked for him, and identify with him. It's that type of thing. So we often lead with the Buddha, but for a different reason. Not for authenticity, but for kind of evidence or proof that the path and the way and the method can be successful for anyone.